You're listening to the See the Unseen podcast, where our number one focus is creating a little visibility for people who deserve a whole lot of spotlight. I'm your host, Melissa Georgioff, and I'm here to share some amazing stories that can transform and inspire lives. So get ready to take those blinders off and see the unseen. Welcome to the podcast. I'm here today with two wonderful ladies from RUNG in St. Louis, Allie Hogan and Leslie. What's your last name, Leslie?
Leslie Gill.
Leslie Gill. So welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So I'm really excited to have you guys on because I want to hear a little bit about how this all started. I know this has been kind of a dream of yours, Allie, right?
Mm-hmm.
So tell me first of all, where you're from and a little bit about yourself.
It's so funny being in Illinois because I'm from St. Louis, so I'm used to saying I'm from here my whole life. Just a few miles west of here. So I opened a nonprofit resale shop in 2010. The idea behind it being helping women dress for the job that they wanted. So I started out selling business attire, which just evolved over the years to jobs women have, being a mom is a job. So then it wasn't really business attire, it was other things. But anyway, along that journey, I met a lot of women who were kind of in this transitional period of their lives, weren't necessarily in crisis, but they weren't necessarily sustainably independent either. So I saw the problem and I figured out how to fix it. And here we are today. And then I found this amazing woman who is my president.
Oh, nice.
So we, interestingly enough, we have very similar personalities, which probably doesn't make for a good recipe, but it's worked really well for us. And it's fun having her on the ride.
Yeah. And I have spent most of my career in the nonprofit space, working for organizations that serve girls and women and families, and met Allie at a time where I was running a historic child welfare agency and had gotten to a point where I was really tired of seeing kids come into care because of abuse and neglect. I was like, this is a little criminal. The fact that we're now seeing the next generation of kids come into care and that we haven't figured out how to break the cycles of poverty. And so in talking to Allie about her vision for RUNG for Women, I was just really inspired by the fact that for the first time in my career, this was going to be a solution to a problem as opposed to putting a Band-Aid on a problem. And, so many nonprofits do really great work, but very few are in the business of going out of business, right? Because the problem is solved. And so I was really motivated to figure out how we could make this work. And here we are, 6 years, 5 years, 6 years.
My first meeting was in July of 2014. So, And you've been with me for 6 years.
Yeah, 6 years in November.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a journey.
Wow. Okay. And so tell me a little bit how it started, because you had this vision, right? But I've seen the building. It's not some little tiny building. So, there's a lot to it. So tell me a little bit about.
Yeah, so when I had the store, I had a small board, and one of my board members, she was on the board at the Jackie Joyner Kersey Foundation, and she had heard about this place in Cincinnati that was this sort of all-inclusive, one-stop shop place for people who were homeless. So we went out to Cincinnati, we toured the place. I loved the concept of there was somebody there to help them with financial education. There was somebody there to help them with getting their GED. There was somebody, so it was all in the same building. And while these are all things that government can provide you with government assistance, it can be a little chaotic and, there's no real straight path. So it's if you could come to one place and get all these things done, it would be great. And their philosophy was a little bit different than what I wanted. So I sort of took the nuggets that worked for me, and I just sort of threw them in the washing machine and spun them around. And I was like, okay, here are the things I want to take from it. Here are the things I want to do differently. But more than anything, I knew that I wanted to be for just women. Mm-hmm. So when you think about the barriers that women have, you think about things like lack of childcare or unhealthy diet or lack of education or, just never understanding finances. And so if you could put all those things in one building and give them all the opportunity to work on their whole selves, not just one piece, it's pretty amazing what comes out of that. And so over time, it sort of became, okay, well, why are we doing this? What's the end goal? Mm-hmm. Well, the end goal is a career. And an end goal is a job that provides benefits and has PTO and, maybe has a retirement plan of some kind, but it provides you with enough money that you can start investing, planning, setting up funds for your kids. It's not just this hourly part-time job that you're going to lose anyway if you can't make it to work because your kid gets sick. I mean, life gets in the way. So how do we get them into those jobs? And it's been a journey, and we've had to make some pivots and make some changes, but so far so good. We have our 5th class that just started. Mm-hmm. So we are currently have recently served over 300 women. So
okay,
400 women. Yeah.
Yeah, actually closer to 500.
Mm-hmm. So 500 women. So do all women qualify for this, or are there certain qualifications?
Yeah. So if you identify as a woman, you're 25 years of age or older, you have a high school diploma or GED, and you're intrinsically motivated to want to change your life, you can apply to become a member at RUNG for Women. We have a pretty rigorous application process. So you apply, you go through an interview, you do an assessment. This last class that started on September 11th, we had over 500 applicants for 60 slots.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so we are really trying to get women into careers where women have historically been underrepresented, careers that will pay, to Allie's point, pay a thriving wage, careers that won't be obsolete or automated in the next 5 to 10 years, and careers that have growth potential in the region. And so we're really focused on 3 sectors right now, and that is technology, geospatial, and advanced manufacturing. And so we ask for prospective members and candidates to identify which pathway they're interested in from the beginning. And so we try to have a pretty even split among those 3 different sectors. And, it's worked well so far, and we're starting to see real success. We talked just this morning about a member who was in our, I think, 2nd cohort. She happened to get a role at Enterprise and now gets to tell her RUNG story to a group of Enterprise executives here in a couple weeks. Or a woman, Rose, who was one of our first women in geospatial program candidates, and she got the geospatial certification and landed a job, and now has landed her 2nd job with Ameren. And because of the relationships we have with executives at Ameren, she'll now have that access. So really, we act as a broker and a curator and a matchmaker, whatever you want to call it. Our role is to match good women who want to do a good job with jobs where they can be successful long-term.
Gotcha. So you're really taking women who may not have had the opportunity to graduate college, or that maybe they can afford college. And it's kind of like a mini college, though, that you're kind of putting together, but with real tools and real, teaching them a real skill set, right?
Yeah. So I always describe it to people like a college campus, because it's very hard to describe because it's a complicated concept, right? Mm-hmm. But you want to sort of fit it all in. So you think about like an elevator pitch or something, but it's more like, okay, it's like a college campus. Mm-hmm. You come to this one place, you start with a class, those are your people, you all sort of start together, but then you sort of go in different directions. But at least you've started out with a core group. You have a coach, also like a college counselor. You have we have a member support group. Like we have study groups for when they get into their job training. So all the things you would see at college, we have. But yeah, I mean, that's really the best way that we can describe it, because it is hard to picture.
Yeah, I mean, I visited your place, and first of all, it's absolutely beautiful. And it's really cool because it's almost like you have these observation windows too, of like a boardroom, and then what it's like to be in the boardroom. And so do you kind of role play sometimes with some of these women?
We do. We have actors that come in and actually play out actual in office, whether you're negotiating pay or dealing with conflict, you're, advocating for yourself, whatever that might look like. We've taken bits and pieces from like the medical school in Springfield. They have a whole training program training their students how to have good bedside manners. So they bring in actors, to be patients. And so we sort of take that too. And, we've added onto the building. So now we're at about 65,000 square feet. So we've got plenty of room for everything. But we really try to teach in a way that we don't want them to just sit in a classroom and take notes. And, we want them to
have experiences. Allie is referring to our professional power skills. Every member goes through it. It's 8 weeks. It includes simulation, and they get, it's the most rewarding experience they have, but it's also pretty scary because, no one wants to like watch themselves be recorded and trying to navigate either negotiating salary or having a difficult conversation with an actor. And it's really cool because, the actor can give it to them mild, medium, or spicy.
Okay. Yeah. So what's spicy look like?
Spicy is like you're getting all the drama all the time. Everything is coming at you at once, and you got to really think on your feet. And the scenarios are real scenarios that we have gotten from HR professionals, things that got people fired the previous 30 days. And so how spicy it gets is really up to the actor. And it's a good time. And we can record it and they can watch themselves, and they use that for that continuous learning.
Gotcha. Now, the people that you bring in to kind of help teach these individuals, are they people that are in these professional roles? Have they had these different positions, or who's teaching these classes?
So what we really like to do is bring in, so we have a couple people on staff who teach our professional power skills, which we sort of call like the secret sauce of RUNG, because it's all of those soft skills that you don't learn in regular school, or things some people think everybody knows how to dress for work. Everybody knows you can call 5 minutes to say you're not coming in. So it's important for them to learn those things. But what we really try to do is put women in front of these women that look like them. So if we're talking about them getting into advanced manufacturing, which can be anything from Boeing to food manufacturing to, advanced manufacturing is all over the board. So if we can get a woman in who is in manufacturing to actually talk to these women about what their day-to-day looks like, it's way more impactful than if we try to explain to them what advanced manufacturing is. So what we really try to do is take women that we know, like yourself, to come in and do a role play or teach a seminar or anything that will make it fun and relatable and useful.
Right.
And we also try to get our members into those environments. So we do field trips, we do exploration and exposure opportunities where they can go on site and actually see what a day in the life is like, to see what the facility is like. It's not your grandmother or grandfather's manufacturing site anymore. They're bright, they're clean, they're high tech. And so, the dark, dingy, grimy plants that we maybe know from the past just don't exist anymore.
Well, and culture has become a big thing. People want to work in a good culture. So you just want it to be, you want to get them excited about something they've probably never heard about. When people come in and they say things like, I want to start a business, but it just sounds good, but you don't really know what goes into that. So we're trying to steer them in the direction of, we can put you in this job that will pay you immediately what you need, but also we have relationships with the employers so that we know that they're going to be paid the same as men, and they're going to be treated as such, and they are going to have a clean, safe environment. And if there are issues, then we are going to talk to the employers. And so we can sort of be that support for them.
So you're really talking to women who really, maybe they didn't come from money, and they don't even know what opportunities are out there. So you're kind of trying to give them, let them know that there are all these different opportunities, and then teaching them the skill set to absolutely get there.
Right.
Yeah. I look at it like we firmly believe women have everything they need, right? We are really sort of targeting a woman who maybe has worked in an industry and she has been overlooked for promotions. She's not sure why. Or she's worked in an industry and she hates it, but doesn't know how to go find and navigate moving to something else.
Mm-hmm.
So that is where we come in. Doesn't necessarily mean that they don't have the executive functioning skills, or they just don't know how to navigate these spaces.
Well, it's tough. I think it is tough. My job was eliminated about 1.5 years ago, and I worked at the same place for 30 years. And then you think, well, what do you do now? I mean, where do you go? You got to put a resume together. Then you have to go on LinkedIn and you have to network with people, and it's a big deal.
And especially post-COVID, a lot of people had time to sit home and sort of reflect on, what do I want to do next? Mm-hmm. And how do I get there? And so people like yourself who maybe were in industries and their jobs were eliminated, a lot of service industry jobs where you couldn't work from home and those jobs were eliminated, you now have women sitting there like, well, what do I do? I'm also caregiving and caretaking, and I want to try something new, but I don't know how. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they didn't have means. They just don't know how to navigate.
But you do have an income level, right? That you.
Mm-hmm.
So
they have to make less than 50,000 to be
individual income.
Individually. Okay.
Yep. So most of our members are working. A lot of them have work history that is really solid, but they're stuck and they don't know how to get unstuck. And so we're very clear that we're not an organization for women who are living in crisis. Okay. So you have to have stable housing. You have to be able to get to our location in South City, in the Fox Park neighborhood. So, you have to have some willingness to want to do this. Mm-hmm. Our average age is 35. So we're also, trending slightly older. Many of our members have some college or a college degree. So, so it is definitely a group of hardworking women who just have come to their wits' end, and they're like, I just need a boost. I know how to get there, or I need help figuring out how to get there, but I also need support and a boost to lead me in the right direction.
Okay. There's also a lack of trust. I mean, for you to have worked in the same company for 30 years is really rare. Mm-hmm. And we can blame people for not being motivated to stay with the company, but we can also blame a company for not doing what they said they would do, or laying people off with no warning, or there's just not a lot of trust out there. Mm-hmm. So I think what these members really appreciate is the fact that we've done the work on the back end. So we're not sending them to companies that are known to lay people off, or are, they're literally looking for these kinds of women, and they have the positions available for them. So I think that creates more trust in the whole.
Yeah, a lot of our work is focused on vetting the companies. So making sure they have family-friendly work environments, making sure they have family-friendly leave policies. We certainly don't want to suggest that our members go work for companies that aren't going to do right by them.
That's what I was just going to ask you. Like, do you spend a lot of time kind of getting to know these different employer groups that you're sending the women to?
There was one company that we talked to that did not have a women's bathroom. And I mean, it seems so crazy, but they never had a need for one. Mm-hmm. But we're not sending her to work there without a women's bathroom.
Right.
And it's pretty impressive how these women are not scared. I mean, they're really not. They're happy to go in an environment where there aren't a lot of other women, but it is scary. And you want to make sure that they're treated.
I was one of the only women on the senior leadership team for about 24 years. Mm-hmm. There was a few here or there that came and went, but it was It was very interesting working with all males. I mean, in some ways it's, really great. And then other ways, you kind of feel like you're, the only one on an island,
Yeah.
So,
well, I think that there's a perception about women and, family friendly. You have to allow for the fact that things are going to come up. Leslie's tracking your daughter right now, walking home from school. Like things are going to come up,
right.
And you shouldn't be penalized at work because just because you're a woman and you might be, single moms, which we all are. And, right. Things do come up. So we need to know that like, you're not going to be penalized for the fact that you happen to be a woman and also the main parent, or there has to be a lot of conversations that go with that.
So you guys talk about this wage discrepancy. So let's just go there, pay and women. What are your thoughts about that? Do you think it's gotten better?
I think it's shocking how it's where it is.
Yeah. So, I think we know that there still is a gender wage gap. We had a conversation about this over the weekend, actually. So equal pay day for Latinas was just October 5th. So that means that they had to work until October 5th to make the same amount of money that their male counterparts made by the end of the previous year.
It took them 10 months to make as much as their...
Oh.
Yeah. So just a lot less every month. It took them 10 months to catch up.
Wow.
Right. And so...
Why do you think that?
I would say, with the, Hispanic culture, certainly there's a dynamic that, women care for the family. So anytime you have to step away from the workforce, there's a thing called the mommy tax. And so there's penalty there. You don't get to come back at the same level. And so every time you step away to have a child, that impacts your ability to be promoted or to grow within the organization.
But, now they have paternity leave, which is crazy. I mean, I don't know. I mean, my daughter says that that's a good thing. I guess it's a great thing, but I didn't even get paid when I left on maternity leave. I left for like 5 or 6 weeks and literally had to go back when I was like not in the best health, but I was like, I need a paycheck.
Well, 5 and 6 weeks is not enough.
Yeah, it's crazy.
No, it's not enough. But, you think about certain cultures where, they have bigger families and women step away longer. And every single time that happens, there's a penalty. It's not fair. It's not right, but it happens. And we know it happens. And so, we're really talking to companies a lot about the one thing you can do to ensure that this gender wage gap doesn't continue is to publish salaries. It seems very simple, but for a lot of organizations, it's super hard.
Sure, because most of the time your wage and your salary is confidential, and there's a lot of companies that would literally, they would let you go if you were talking about your salary to others.
Yeah, which is a problem, right? Because you're likely getting paid less than your male counterpart, and they don't want you to talk about it because they don't want people to find out.
Now, isn't there like glass ceiling, something like that, where, you can go in, or fishbowl or something like that. I don't even know what these are, but you can go in and put your salary and people can go look at it or something. I don't know.
Maybe
something like that.
I understand the feeling, the philosophy behind people not wanting their employees to be talking about, because people should be paid based on what they're bringing to the company, right? And what their outcomes are. So obviously a higher performing employee should make more than an employee who isn't as high performing.
Right. I agree with that.
That is one thing. But if you are moving into a position and the person before you was making more than you are, that makes no sense to me. You were hired into this position based on your qualifications. I don't know if it's the feeling like you have to earn it, but I'm kind of like, you probably already earned it in wherever you came from. So you should just go in at the same amount.
Or the bias that comes with, Leslie and Allie are applying for the same role. And because she's a white woman, she gets paid $5,000 more.
Is that true?
Yeah. For sure.
Really?
Isn't it crazy? You're like, that seems ridiculous.
Yeah. No, it happens all the time. And we're literally submitted our applications, went through the interview process, and because the salary ranges aren't published, she could ask for more and they'll give her more. I could ask for more and they will tell me we can't do it.
So who tracks that? How do we know that data?
Oh, I mean, we know because people tell us it happens. We know because, we've seen a huge surge in diversity, equity, and inclusion work. It's not just women. Women are paid less than men for sure. But when you get into race and ethnicity, African American, Latino, Asian, women are paid less than white women. I mean, it's factual. The Department of Labor, you can look at the labor market analysis. They will show you what the average salaries are by ethnicity. It happens. It's unfortunate, but that's why we say the pay, just publish it so that we know I can be anywhere in this range. And if it happens that, they offer me in the range and they offer her a few $100s more in the range or me a few $100s more in the range, it's not this huge discrepancy.
Mm-hmm.
But you see some places where we had a board member over the weekend that said there was a partner and a partner, both a female partner and a male partner. The male partner was making $50,000 more than the female partner. They're both partners in this firm. How could why is the male partner making $50,000 more than the female partner? Same title, same background, doing virtually the same work.
Right. Well, I think I think we have a hard time negotiating pay, number one.
For sure.
And advocating for ourselves.
Yeah. Yes.
And I read somewhere where there were statistics that women feel like they have to know like 95% of the job before they'll like throw their name in the hat for a job. But the male will be like, he maybe only needs to know like half of it. And he will still put his name in that because they're so confident. And they'll, even if they don't know the job, they'll be like, oh, I'll figure it out. I know, they just, I don't know, I'm going to dog on men right now, but it's like they feel like they know everything or they'll figure out somehow. But women,
men are sitting in the decision-making chair and they say to their male counterparts, like, come on, we'll do this together.
Right. Okay. Well, you'll figure it out. Yeah. But it's like, why do women feel like that they have to know everything before they will throw their name in the hat?
I think a big thing that we talk about is that for so many years, there were jobs that were made specifically for women, nursing, anything nurturing, right? Nursing, teaching.
Right.
So I think women still feel like they're new in these industries and they have to be real sure to show up on the first day as an expert. Otherwise, they're not going to cut it. But the advocating for yourself piece is huge. And listen, we're not going down to Jeff City and like trying to change the policies and doing all that. To be honest, I feel like this is actually going to move the needle faster by just having these relationships with the companies and giving them time to see that we're right.
And
do you monitor that?
Value.
Yeah.
So what are some of the companies that you do kind of network with and that support RUNG?
Oh, so we have a big list of employer partners and organizations that are part of our network. Places like Panera. So everyone knows the Panera brand. We have a number of geospatial companies, T. Carter, Maxar. I'm thinking Sire Industries is another one. They make component parts for airplanes. So in the advanced manufacturing space. Boeing. Yeah, Boeing's a big supporter of our work. Doesn't necessarily mean all these companies are publishing salaries, but they are at least open to having the conversation. And we know that all of the other benefits that they offer right now might outweigh the fact that they don't publish salaries, but many of them do. Many of the organizations do publish salaries.
Yeah, I've seen, LinkedIn starts to publish salaries for different positions now. So I think that is bringing a little bit of visibility to the work space.
The hope is if you're not willing to publish them, why?
Yeah, you're asking.
If you're doing
like this is the job. Right. If you can do this job, then this is what we're willing to pay for it.
Well, and if you're being ethical and morally right, why wouldn't you publish it?
Yeah.
So I think that's the hope, is that we get it to that point where now you're part of the rule and not the exception. So it's helped us in hiring as well.
Yeah, actually, the state of Illinois just passed legislation that by 2025, all companies domiciled in the state of Illinois will have to publish salaries.
Really?
Yes.
Like publish a salary, like you work for this company and this is what you make in this role? Or
no, it means that this is the job and this is the salary range for the job.
Okay.
So that
based on what that current person is being paid.
Gotcha.
And based upon what the role requires. So
I think schools do that, right? They have the principal, they have teachers. This is the range.
A lot of government funded, and that's
okay.
I was going to say a lot of governmental entities will publish salaries currently. The federal government publishes salaries to a degree, or they'll publish I forget what they call it, but the ranking or the level. But private industry does not so much, and so we're really trying to move the needle in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. So you're helping women role play and helping them advocate for, what are some of the key things that you would instruct women to say when they're trying to get a raise or they're trying to negotiate their salary? What are some best practices?
Well, unfortunately, neither one of us do that work directly with our members, but I would say it's all the things that we know, when you think about the skills that you bring to a role. Sometimes education is a factor, sometimes it's not. We really look for roles that are middle skill jobs, so jobs that don't require a bachelor's degree.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, walking in with confidence, having done your research and knowing what the job commands and what the range is. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you know what the people around you are making, but
Mm-hmm.
you are really focused on what you bring, the value add that you bring as an employee, and what the job is worth.
Well, the thing we hear more than anything, like verbatim, is I had no idea how I was just in my own way. So it's like you can actually take that, because it feels like a risk, right? If you go in and advocate yourself, it feels like a risk. Like now you're going to lose your job. If you go in and you ask your boss for a raise and then he doesn't give it to you, well, now it's going to be weird.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then when you have us, so we also have this program where for 5 years after you leave, we stay in contact with you, and we have seminars and we stay in touch with your employers, so that if for some reason you had a conversation with the employer, it did not go well, the employer, worst case scenario was like, I can't believe you asked me for that, we have to let you go. Then we can step in and be like, whoa, that's not, you can't do that, or what. It's nice to have us advocating for them as well.
Oh, so you do kind of stay involved.
Oh, we stay involved for 5 years. And so we call it our member support network. So so it's like, we will help you advocate for yourself until you're ready to just go off and do it on your own.
Well, the other thing is we see so often that women just don't ask.
Right.
And they don't ask for the raise. They go through the performance management process and get to the end and freeze. As much as they know they've earned it, they don't ask for it, and they just wait for it to be given to them.
Right. I always say no means not now. So, what's the worst they're going to say? No, then okay. But at least you put yourself out there. But I do know that a lot of women do struggle with just imposter syndrome and lacking confidence. And it happens even at my level, at the C-suite levels, at vice president levels. Like, women really do have those kind of challenges. I always thought that, I spent about 1.5 years with a leadership coach, and he literally changed my life. And because there's one thing that I dealt with a lot, and it's funny because now I talk about it, but it was the biggest insecurity that I ever had. And I carried it with me probably 30 years. And that was that I didn't graduate college. So I went to about 2 years of college full time. I took some night classes. I took professional presence, Comp 2, but all these like general studies and everything. And I never got my bachelor's degree. And I thought, oh my gosh, I don't want to tell anyone that, because, I was working with these guys that had these Ivy League degrees, and I didn't come from money. My mom and dad couldn't afford college. I had to pay for everything I went to. So, and then I was traveling a lot and working for my company. And the CEO of the company at the time, I said, should I go back to college? to get my degree, or should I keep doing this? But I'm a single mom. I'm traveling. I don't have time for all this. He said, Melissa, if you love what you're doing, you're passionate about what you're doing, then no. He's like, but you could just put your time and effort into the company and you'll be rewarded. So, but I carried this like insecurity with me for so long. And then finally, when I worked with a leadership coach, he said to me, what's the biggest insecurity that you have? And I was like, don't even want to tell my leadership coach this. And so I thought, well, that's what he's here for. So I just told him, and he said, well, let me ask you a question. So do you want to go back to school? I said, no. He said, do you think you're going to make more money if you have that piece of paper? I said, no. And I'm like, I'm at the top. I can't even go anywhere else. Like, I'm at the top of my company at what I do. And so he said, well, I said, it's just that these guys have all went to these different colleges. They have all these fancy degrees. And when people asked me, I felt embarrassed. And he said, well, what's another story you could tell yourself? And I said, well, that I have like 30 years of domain expertise that these guys will never have. I mean, they all went to the Jack Welch leadership programs, but they did not understand our business, and I had it. And he's like, well, then tell yourself that story. And something clicked in me, and I was like, that's true. And my son would say, well, Mom, like, you should be proud that you didn't go to college. You did it all without going to college. But I said, you look at it that way, but I didn't look at it that way.
Yeah.
So I think there are, and it's weird because now I talk about it, which I would never share with people, but I share it to help other women, because I think there's a lot of people out there that, they think that, because I thought I was just going to be like a flight attendant or a secretary or something like that, because I didn't even know the opportunities that were out there.
Yep.
And it wasn't until a woman really believed in me and said, you're going to be our contracting person. I was like, well, what's that? And she's like, well, you'll figure it out. But she believed in me. So I just kept taking the steps.
Yeah.
But I think it's great what you guys are doing for women.
I mean, that's absolutely the wrong way. Like, we know we have some members who have gone to college or have degrees, but we really look for middle skill jobs that don't require a bachelor's degree. We talk to employers about, why does a degree matter if you have 30 years of experience? Right. So let's talk about the skills that are necessary to be successful in a role, as opposed to a bachelor's degree. Because at the end of the day, if you have the skills, right, and you have work experience, a degree doesn't matter. College is not for everyone. And
how many people do what they actually majored in?
Right.
For sure.
So they have a degree in something and then they go do something completely different.
I mean, college was really just a slip and slide into real life. Like, honestly, you're learning how to be on your own. You're learning how to fall and get back up. You're learning how to make mistakes in a safe environment. I mean, it's like, it's great. And I'm not saying, you want to be a doctor, please go to a school where you learn how to be a doctor. But if you don't know what you want to do.
Right. Well, I made my kids go to college. My daughter was a third grade school teacher. She's now a mother, staying at home. And my son graduated with a business degree, and he was always not wanting to go. But I said, I didn't have that edge, and I was like, I want you to still go.
But
so you have the edge.
Did you really have you had the edge?
I feel like
you created the edge.
I did, but I wonder if maybe I felt like I always had to prove something, so I worked a little harder or something.
Which
maybe
there's
I don't
nothing
know.
wrong with that either.
Yeah,
because there are a ton of people who have it and don't work hard at all.
Right, that's true too. Yeah.
So,
and I'm sure at some point you told yourself, I didn't go to college, so I'm going to make my kids go to college because I want them to do better than I did. But that's actually not in there at all. Like, that's the story you told yourself. Right?
Yeah, right.
Because you actually, people who go, and not a rip on Ivy League schools, but like for them, sometimes it's more of a lateral move to get into these positions. You actually had to grow so much professionally to get there that the room for improvement is way higher than, and I mean, I think it's great when people can go to college. I went to college, but I don't remember a lot of what I learned in college. I'm certainly not using my degree. So,
no.
Yeah,
me either. I went to college and graduate school. And at the time, it felt like the right thing to do. But now, in hindsight, it's the people that I know and the relationships that I built that really helped propel my career. Mm-hmm. So I would say to any person who's trying to decide, like, should I do it or should I not? It's like, make sure you treat people the way you want to be treated, and you don't ever burn any bridges, because you never know when you'll need to make that call. to ask for a favor. So much of where I have gotten to today in my career is because people saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. Had nothing to do with my degree. It had everything to do with my attitude and work ethic.
That's great.
So, I mean, I certainly support education, higher education, going to college, but it is not for everyone. And I think, you know, to make the investment of time and money and not be sure about how you're going to use it, you know, could come back to hurt you in the end.
Yeah.
Right. It's a lot. College is expensive.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And that's why I only went to 2 years. But, you know, I always learned to teach myself. Like you were talking about on the podcast, how did you do this? Well, you know, I just got on YouTube and started watching videos and saying, oh, okay, now somebody out there knows how to do it.
A skill and patience that many people don't have.
Well, I have zero patience, but
you're willing to go learn, right? That curiosity, that, you know, intrinsic ability to want to learn more is half the battle.
Right.
But if someone had just handed you a podcast, like they built this room and they were like, well, there's your podcast is going to happen, you would do it and you'd be great at it, but you wouldn't have all the depth behind it that got you here.
Right.
So I feel like that,
wouldn't appreciate
counts
it as
for
much.
something. Yeah.
Yeah. My daughter always tells me to enjoy the journey and not just, you know, the end result.
Yep.
And that's really, that's hard to remember, but that is true because I think when you're learning a little bit on the way, it's fun to learn and grow and everything. And you get so focused, at least for me, is like, I'm very action oriented and goal oriented. So it's like, okay, what's the goal in this? And for me, like you do a podcast, well, I'm not making any money on this podcast really yet. So, but then I'm like, why am I doing this? But then I have to remember the why. Well, I want to help women get the visibility they deserve. I want to help women grow in their career and share my faith. And, you know, there's all kinds of reasons why I want to start.
Well, and you just told us something about something that you weren't comfortable talking about, and now you're putting it on a podcast. Like,
yes,
you're evolving too. So,
for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, however that.
Yeah, and you don't know where you're going to end up, right? Because even just like a year or, you know, a couple of years ago, before I lost my job, I was actually taking this class to develop a keynote. And I thought, well, it'll be fun. And I don't do anything just for fun. It has to have a reason. And so again, Kaylee was like, just take the class for fun. And so all of a sudden, I'm putting all the things that I've ever learned in business into a keynote and then taking my takeaways. What did I learn from this moment in my life that, you know, where maybe I had a really successful moment? And what did I learn from it? Or maybe I messed up with something and what did I learn from it? So I did that. And then I'm still trying to brainstorm of like, how do I take what I've learned and help other women? How do I tell my story that, you know, I didn't come from money and, you know, and I didn't graduate college but I have had a very successful career in life. How do I take that and teach other women? So, you know, sometimes you don't know where things are going to go, right? But then you just got to keep kind of networking and keep trying at least to see where it might go.
Yeah, I think wealth is such an interesting dynamic because, you know, so often you've said it a couple times that I didn't come from money, and the wealth dynamic doesn't translate into how hard you will work, right?
Yeah.
So like at a certain point in time, that stuff doesn't even matter.
No.
Like it's all about what you're doing right here, right now, and your commitment to continuous learning. And that, I think, you know, that's why we're all here, is because even in our work, you know, we want women to be committed to investing in themselves and that continuous learning, because, you know, you never know what this will lead to. Like I said, you know, when we opened, you know, we have a member who came to RUNG because she was stuck. She changed her career, got a job at a company she loves, and now she gets to tell her story in front of the entire executive team of a global company. Right. And she probably, when she walked through our door, she didn't think that was going to be her path.
Right. Well, success isn't just defined by your your salary or finances,
No.
but rather by purpose and passion. And
For
if you can
sure.
line them both up, if you can do something you're really passionate about and that you feel like you have a purpose, then, I always think then the money will come too.
Yes.
Because you can be super successful and then think, what am I doing here? Like, I'm not making a difference.
Yeah. I encourage our members and staff all the time, like, find things that you would do even if you weren't getting paid to do it.
Right. That's good advice.
Podcast, right?
Right.
I enjoy doing it. Right now, I'm not getting paid to do it, but maybe one day I will. So if I keep at it, certainly the purpose and the pay will intersect.
Right. Yeah. Out here, I'll just say a message out to Sunglass Hut. See the unseen. I want you to be a sponsor of this podcast.
Hey.
They actually have this like really cool. They make eyeglasses for children who can't, like their families who can't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, See the Unseen, they'd be a good sponsor, podcast or whatever. But I haven't called them yet. But
maybe they'll hear it, and you don't have to call them.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to ask for what you want.
But let's talk about this because Allie, you're doing all of this and, you don't need to work. You don't have to work. Why do you do it?
Well, I think it started out as simply guilt. When you are born into wealth, I can't say everybody because I think you can definitely take two paths. But for me, it was about the need is there. And I do feel that it is, I'm not going to say obligation, but I do feel like it is my duty to do something positive with that. And I think that was initially why I started. And then I'm so lucky because then I realized this is actually what I want to do. And I don't care that I don't collect a paycheck because I get filled up every day meeting these women, and not just the members, but the staff too. And every day is different. Mm-hmm. And we get to have all these adventures and watch all these women go off and do amazing things. And so for me, it just felt right. I think I grew up in a family of very strong women, and we talk sometimes about how I became a leader, and being a leader was never an option for me because we just had women, and we're honestly not very good at marriage. So there's a lot of single women and a lot of single moms.
Me too. I wasn't good at it either.
And so it's like you don't get to sit in the back row. Like you have to sit in the front row. You have to ask questions. You have to speak up. You have to, go catch the kid that no one's talking to and go talk to them. And
that's how you were brought up. That's how
I was brought up.
Well, and I also think the one thing that I really admire about your mom is she always made you work.
I always had to work.
She always had to work.
Always.
And so that innate ability to have like a really good work ethic permeates through everything. Whether you're getting paid to work or not, like this commitment to work is a skill. And it is something that is learned behavior. Mm-hmm. And so, it really is like Joji's fault. Like she made you work, and my mom made me work, and your parents probably made you work. And so
actually they didn't really make me work.
But
so
you like
it's really, but I like to work.
So however you got there, you got there.
Yeah.
However right. But at the end of the day, like it wasn't the money, it was the value.
Right.
And work ethic is a family value.
And I think everybody should work in a restaurant or be in some kind of social service industry at some point, because my God, you learn some things.
A lot of people wouldn't know that about you though. Really. Well, I mean, and I guess tell the listeners like who you are, what's your background, your family.
So my grandfather started Enterprise Rent-A-Car, which is interesting. We have very similar personalities. He really just wanted someplace to go, and he wanted a place to like meet new people and do whatever. And then it kind of got away from him. And then, it's grown so much and it's done so well. But I think for a while I was really embarrassed by it because I sort of felt like that's how people would view me. And
like you're spoiled rich girl.
Totally. And like social media has not helped me, and nor has reality TV, but it's like people,
were you on reality TV?
No, I'm just saying like that's what people imagine.
Oh yeah.
Like that I'm a real housewife. And
but you know what? You could be. Like you could live that life, but you don't.
No, and I remember my grandfather saying multiple times, if you got to keep your nose clean. You got to do what you got to do. You're representing the family all the time. I will have no questions about writing you a check and sending you on your way. You're going to be a part of this or you're not. And you got to make the choice. And if you're going to be a part of it, you're going to be a part of it. And that means you're under a microscope. And that means we're all going to be on you about stuff. And while at the time it felt very constricting, like I can't really be myself, I feel like I can't like get a face tattoo or I can't do whatever. But now I'm like, that made a lot of sense because it forced me to commit to things and it forced me to be a leader and it forced me to use what I had and parlay it into something that made me really happy. But it took me a long time. Like I went to college in Virginia and I went to this small town and nobody from St. Louis went there. And that was totally my purpose. But it took me, it wasn't until the end of my freshman year that I told anyone. And they were like, why wouldn't you have told us that? And I'm like, because I really needed you to get to know me.
To like you for who you are.
Yeah. And they were like, well, we're not those people. And I'm like, no, I get it. But that's my stuff. That's not your stuff. Like we're all human. Right.
Right.
And I know when I meet somebody sometimes and they know that about me, they want to ask me things. And I'm like, I'd rather you just ask me. I'll tell you honestly. But yeah, so I'm really lucky in that way that I was raised that way. And
you're very grounded. I would say, like I've been to your house and you drink out of a red Solo cup and wine in the fridge and stuff. But I really do admire that about you, that you took you took the money that you have and the resources that you have and you did something good with it. I mean, you have guilt for having money and I had guilt for not having money, I guess.
But
or
isn't
whatever.
that interesting?
Yeah.
Like, we both had insecurity. It doesn't matter. You're going to have an insecurity about something. Ours are just bigger and more obvious, but like, it doesn't really matter where we came from. And you and I have become friends over the years and I've known you for a long time now. And so it's like, we're all just people.
Yeah. I mean,
trying to do the best we can with what we have.
Right. And I always say no one has it all figured out. I think that some people think that, there's a special sauce and you do all these things that I'm thinking about, anybody, no matter what they're going through. I mean, everybody's probably going through something or have some challenges in their life. And nobody, no matter I think with social media now, with Instagram and Facebook and all this and all these highlight reels, there are so many people that are out there thinking that their life is so perfect, because they're only showing the good stuff. And we all have challenges. We're all trying to get through each day and be a little bit better person.
Yeah. I remember somebody saying to me when I got divorced, because I'm like, God, I'm a single mom now. And they're like, well, yeah, but you're a single mom with money. Like, that's a totally different thing. And I'm like, but it's not. I mean, I still have to emotionally fulfill my kids and I still have to worry about what they're doing at their dad's house. And I still have to figure out how to maintain a good relationship with him. And none of that has a monetary value.
Right. So do I.
So while, yes, I have a pool in my backyard and I can sit out there with them in the summer and they can wear themselves out. Beyond that, I mean, and I don't want to raise them to think that just because they have money, the world is easier.
And after so much, it doesn't really matter. It is like, really I sit here sometimes and I think, I have days when I just feel super lonely and I'm thinking, I am like a huge extrovert. I mean, I'm sitting here as a podcast host, but there are days that, I don't really talk to that many people. I'm emailing back and forth. I'm on video calls here or there, but then my girlfriends are busy. Kaylee has her own life. Braden has his own life. And then my fiance is in Chicago at SWAT school. And I'm sitting here thinking, it's lonely. Like, so, I mean, I think, and that's where I pray about that too, is like, how can I help other women? Because I know if I feel this way and I'm a networker, I love to develop relationships, but if I feel that way, sometimes there's got to be people out there that feel that way too. I know we're getting off on a tangent here, but
that's
away from RUNG, but
that's how women do. That's
yeah, but I love that you guys are out there supporting women and have these programs put together, and because it's more like role playing when you're actually doing the actual work. Which I'd love to be in there with like when these actors are being the CEOs, because I've been around some CEOs before.
We have a place for you, and I'll share with your listeners that if anyone is interested, you can go to our website, RUNG for Women, RUNGFOR women.org. We're located in the city of St. Louis in Fox Park, and you can come visit us anytime.
Really? Do you do tours?
We do.
We do tours. I would actually love for you to come in and be an actor, but
yes.
You can't.
Oh, I would be a good CEO.
You can't be all like Missy Sweet Pants. You gotta be
you gotta be spicy.
Well, first of all, probably the people who worked for me in the years past would say that I wasn't
Missy Sweet Pants.
Yeah, no.
I just made that up for you.
Yeah, Missy Sweet Pants, which nobody calls me Missy except for the people that, back a long time ago. Well, people in high school did, but not now. Anyway, that's another story.
Very cute Missy. I like Missy.
But I don't think Missy Sweet Pants went together really in my work life. I'm a lot sweeter than I used to be. Nice. That's from Sweet or Steel Magnolias too.
Nice. Oh, that is a good. Yep. I get that.
Yeah,
I get that.
So what else do we need to talk about? Anything else that's
we covered a lot, and I do find it hilarious how women can start on one topic and they can just
bounce all around,
right?
Divert.
Get back to the end.
That's what I said. Let's just make it conversational and and let it flow naturally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
I appreciate you for this.
Yeah, it's been great.
Such a great space.
Yeah, and so let the listeners know I know you said the website, but how do women, if they're interested in joining RUNG or finding out more information about RUNG, where do they go? Who do they call?
Yep. So best thing to do is go to our website, rungforwomen.org. You can find us at 2717 Sydney Street in the Fox Park neighborhood in St. Louis, Missouri. And unfortunately, I do not know our phone number.
No, I don't know our phone number. Do people still call?
People might call.
But we also have
we have a receptionist.
We do.
We do.
Okay.
Yeah. But you could also reach us at info@rungforwomen.org, and that will get triaged to someone based upon your interests. So professional volunteers, become a member. The website is really the best option.
And we've just revamped it so it's way more user-friendly. So
Great.
Yes.
Well, I would love to be a guest sometime.
Sure.
I know we talked about it, but I'd love to share my story and hopes to.
Now we've organized it a little better.
Yeah, sure.
To help women too. Well, if you like what you're hearing, make sure that you go to my YouTube page and subscribe to the See the Unseen podcast. And I want to thank you guys for being here. It's been a pleasure. And thank you for joining the podcast. Thanks for listening.